on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
It's another great day here in the United States of America, the mecca for NBA championships. I am with a fan, like a number one Knicks fan. I think I may have seen her sitting next to Spike Lee during the playoffs. Hard to tell. She is Nikki Brown Bass Knight. She's got a lot of names, but anyway, good to see you. It's been,
To see you.
years, I guess, since we've seen each other. Nikki, and it's good to see you. And man, we're not going to talk much about the Knicks because it was a bummer, but they played well. They were a great team, and we'll wait till next year to see what happens. Now,
Absolutely.
we're surely not going to talk about the Nuggets, okay?
Oh.
That what we won't talk anymore. Well, good to see you. And if I'm not mistaken, you are from New York originally, right? Or that's what you call
born and
your
raised.
home. Yeah. Okay. What part? Because I know New York has a lot of pieces and boroughs and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, we have 5 boroughs. I grew up in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. It is called Tribeca now, but it wasn't Tribeca back then when I grew up. So Lower Manhattan, by the west side, not too far from where the Twin Towers used to stand.
Okay, very cool, very cool. But now you've moved to San Antonio. I think that's your home now, right?
Yes, that I would say that's my base of residence because I travel a lot now since I retired.
Yeah. Well, when you're retired and make all that money, you got
not
nothing to
money.
do with it. Now, you serve. How long did you serve, and when did you retire?
I served 26 and a half years, and I retired out of Okinawa, Japan in 2019.
Okay, so a few years ago, and you reached the rank of senior master sergeant, if I'm not mistaken, right? Huh?
Yes, Chief.
Yeah, and the Air Force screwed up because you were, since I met you, Nikki, you were a chief. It just didn't ever catch up with you. Another cycle, and you would have had it on. I know it. I know it. But nonetheless, things happen, and you had to go on and do your thing and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for your service. I know you served well. You served professionally. You were in PME for a little bit, and you were first sergeant before you retired, which is a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. Actually, all my positions. For most of it, I was administration. I was what they, Chief, you remember the 0702?
Yeah.
And I loved being an administrator, and also I had the opportunity to step out of the career field, as you stated, to be a PME instructor, which that's when I learned about leadership and about people listening to you. And then some years later, I had the opportunity to be a first sergeant for a couple of years. And I would say that was probably the most rewarding out of all my positions. I loved all my positions that I was in, but being a first sergeant was probably the most rewarding for me.
Yeah. And what I wanted to do on this episode, Nikki, is get your perspective, because I know, especially as a first sergeant, a senior NCO, a first sergeant, you saw a lot of chiefs.
Yes.
I'm not going to say there were any bad ones, but there were some really good ones, and some that were really trying and maybe didn't make the cut for whatever reasons. And I wanted to get your perspective. I sent you the book, and I may have given it to you years ago. But out of those 12 lessons, which one do you think that first sergeants really should hone in? And I hope that you'd say that all of them are important. But what do you think? Here's a new first sergeant. You're giving him or her the benefit of your experience, having seen this. What could you tell that new chief should do, or remember examples of non-examples back in PME, or what they shouldn't do from your perspective?
Okay, so I will say, out of all the lessons, you don't know everything. When I read that particular one, I actually thought about when I was a young NCO and I went to a chief administrator because I couldn't find. Remember back in the day where they had pubs and you had to look up stuff. It wasn't electronic like it is now. You get to scroll. You had to actually take the book off the shelf. And there was something that I was looking for. Part of the job was decorations. I was deployed, and I didn't know much about aerial medals. and how many combat hours that a flyer had to have in order to get this medal. And so I went to the chief, letting him know, and he said, "Why don't you look it up?" And I said, "Okay." And then he gave me this number. And Chief, I have to tell you, all day I was looking up this publication. All day I was searching, and I was really scared to go back to him and tell him I couldn't find it. But eventually I had to, because I get this medal. Chief, instead of him telling me that he did not know or or where to find it, he just told me to look it up. The pub that the place he told me to look it up, it was obsolete a couple of years ago, or years prior. Instead of just saying, "I don't know, let me find out," showing that human factor, that even though we see the stripes, you don't know everything. Letting the person know that you don't know everything, but I'm going to find the answer. Don't leave me out there. And then, yes, promptly find the answer, and then show me where I can look it up at. And then guess what? From that, I would have passed that knowledge on. But now, many years later, I was a staff sergeant. Many years later, I still remember that chief had me looking up all day, wasting time, instead of just saying, "I don't know the answer."
Yeah.
You don't know everything.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helped me along the years. When people would come to me and I didn't know something, I would say, "You know what? I don't have the answer to that. That's a unique question." Phrase it where it doesn't, you don't want to make the person feel like they can't come to you because you don't have the knowledge, because knowledge doesn't mean you know the answer right then. It means, how do you go look for it? Who do you go to? What, but that's the story that popped in my head. I was like, man, this chief had me looking all day, and we're deployed. I could have been doing all kinds of things, but
Right.
instead of saying he didn't know, he just had me do the runaround.
Yeah. And to give him the benefit of the doubt, Nikki, possibly,
Yes.
because the real old guys probably would have said, "Go do it yourself," because that's how you learn.
Right. Right.
Not necessarily, not necessarily.
Right. Right.
I teach customer service, and I always say that an amateur sells products, a professional sells solutions, which is different. And I have plenty of stories. Go to Walmart and ask them, "Where's this?" And if they tell
Right.
you it's in aisle 63, and then they walk off, that's not a professional. A professional will say, "Let me take you there, and let me show
Right.
you." And
Right.
and,
Right.
and that,
Right. Right.
that creates an atmosphere of trust, and a lot of stuff that we need, I think,
Right. Right.
particularly
Right.
in the military, but wherever, but don't just let that person just, go on
Right.
their own, because they don't know. And
Right.
especially if you don't know, they don't even
Right.
know more. Does that make sense?
Right.
I don't know if that's correct, but anyway, you know what you know what I'm saying. Yeah. And the key is that here, and this is what, 20 some years ago,
Yes.
you still
Mhm.
remember that.
Yes.
You still
Hmm.
remember that, and for any new leader, it's in one of my books. By the way, you're an author. We'll talk about that in a little bit. In one of my books, I mentioned that you can't teach a lot of this stuff. You show it. To be
Right.
a great leader, to be whether it's the first sergeant, a chief, any kind of leader, you show how to do that. You don't tell them, "Yeah, well, okay, it'll go in one ear and out the other," especially the youngsters. Well, I guess if you text it, right?
Right.
But don't capitalize or punctuate, because otherwise they won't understand.
Right. Don't put it all in caps because you're yelling.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, years later, you're still remembering that stuff. Yeah, you,
Yes.
you, you
Yeah.
don't know everything. And you know what I think happens, and maybe that's the issue, the problem, is because you're expected to be the leader. You're
Hmm.
expected to know everything. And then, and you, I think really the book, and I'm going to write the next portion of that book soon, but it has to do with humility. If you don't give them the answer, then you must not be the chief, the leader,
Right.
which is really
Right.
dumb. We realized that not knowing is okay. Authenticity, there's another word, Brene Brown, I can't think, vulnerability. I think,
Yes.
it's okay to be that way. And
Right.
I just, not long ago, I talked to, I can't think of his name, McAlpin, Chief McAlpin, on the show. And, he expressed that a lot of quote leaders, a lot of chiefs have mental, emotional issues because they
Mm,
won't seek help.
mhm.
It's okay. It's okay. We're humans, and I think maybe we're figuring that out. And that's really I think the gist of that. That you don't know everything. It's okay if you don't know everything. Uh, and the worst thing is when you don't know everything, and the followers know that you don't know everything, and you're
And
trying
they
to
don't
make up.
really say anything to you. They just kind of go
Yeah,
off to the side. Yeah, don't go to that chief or don't
yeah,
go to that senior NCO. And that's the worst feeling in the world because now you lose your credibility,
yeah,
and once you lose that, it's hard to get that back.
yeah, yeah. Now, do you have any? Do you remember any stories about the chiefs that did practice humility, and that you felt good about going up to them because they were going to be honest with you. They weren't going to put on that that chief facade.
Yes. Chiefs that really stood out to me are the ones that, especially me growing up, when I came in, as you stated earlier, I came in, I was a true New Yorker. And the first couple of years, and I want to say that I was blessed to come in the 90s because I don't know if I would have made it in this year because I was a raw airman. And but it took some great senior NCOs, but some chiefs that saw what they say the diamond in the rough, what I didn't see in myself. And the first chief that I would say that really stood out to me, the first chief is his name was Chief Cargill. He was a first sergeant. I was an airman. I came from England. I didn't have a great experience with a supervisor. And in my mind, I was going to get out of the military. I didn't know how I was going to do it. My enlistment wasn't up yet, but I was going to find a way. But Chief Cargill came to my desk. I was working in Headquarters Space Command at the time. And he said, so you're on the list to go to Airman Leadership School. And me trying to be cunning said, well, Chief, I'm going to get out the military. And I think that, this would be a great opportunity for someone else to excel, something to that effect. And I remember him looking at me and saying, oh, you thought that was a request? Like, oh, I'm just stating a fact. And he said, but, and I said, well, no, Chief, I'm going to get out, I'm going to do something else. He said, well, I didn't see any paperwork on my desk. So you're going. And he said, but, you can either go on your own or you can go in the escort service. He was like, yeah, it has sirens and lights and handcuffs, but you're going to Airman Leadership School. Now, if you repeat this story again today, Chief Cargill, he's one of my virtual friends now. He will tell you that he does not remember any of this, but I remember it well, not because of that portion, but because when I did go to Airman Leadership School, he knew what was best for me. He knew what I was in for. He knew about the BAT supervisor. I feel like he got me in the right classroom as far as the PME instructor. At the time, her name was Tech Sergeant Cheryl Collins. And it was in that classroom where I was able to put the mirror to my face and say, what are the things that I could have done better in my previous situation? And Chief didn't just say, go there. He came and checked up on me. A headquarters chief who I know has so many things to do other than worry about this little senior airman at Airman Leadership School. He came to visit when it was time for the chiefs to come and do their panel. He made sure he was one of them. Anytime he had the opportunity, he came there, and he was definitely there for my graduation. Even with my not so well attitude, he made it a point to show me that he had time to show up and care about me enough because he knew where I was at. And it was from that point on, I was like, man, there are some really good senior NCOs in the military. And he happened to be the first one that I encountered. And he was the one that I would say his attitude, I tried to emulate from that point on. So that was a real good chief.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he remembered where he came from. And I think that's what senior NCOs forget sometimes, that, just because we have these stripes and people say, okay, they must know everything. Yeah, you know everything, but remember where you came from. Remember what it's like to be that airman that didn't have self-esteem or had those bad situations. You may be the one person that changes their outlook on life. And that's what Chief Cargill did for me.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, life, Nikki, it's a constant change. It really is. And I know you have a young son. He's 12, 13. No, he's
Oh no, Chief, that's long ago. My son is 26 years old
20.
now.
Oh, no, no
Yes,
way.
26 now. And he is preparing to go off to graduate school to
Wow.
become a physical therapist.
Great, great. Well, congratulations. I call that air
Thank
power.
you.
But
Thank you.
I mean, you see it in our children, I think,
Yeah.
more than anything, that evolution, I guess, that the
Yes,
progress that they
absolutely.
make. Because what
Absolutely.
life is, and I've been retired for 22 years or so, and people keep asking me, what's the biggest change? Well, I can't tell you because it just happened as we were speaking.
Right.
Whatever that may be, and and that's okay. It's supposed to evolve. But if you think that you know everything, remember that old saying, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Right.
Yeah, no, you haven't. No, you
Right.
haven't. Because what your son is going through is not the same as what you're going through or
And,
what
and
you
he
went through.
and he lets me know that. He said,
Yeah.
Mom, that's back in your day. Or like if we're talking about school, he was like, yeah, college is not like it was when you went. And I'm like, oh gosh. But I will always say the foundation is still the same.
Yes,
I will
yes.
always say the foundation is still the same. But yes, you know a little bit more than me. And if you really hone in on that you don't know everything. Even with my son, I learned so much from his experience just because
Yeah.
he's younger than me. Being open to that knowledge.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and that's the key for any leader, being open.
Yep. And sometimes that can be difficult. But
Yes.
if you're going to be effective,
Yes.
you have to do that. You have to
Right.
do that, or else you're going to fail. That's pretty
Right.
much it. And like you said, and we're always watching our leaders, whether it's a chief or mom or parents, whatever. And we're evaluating. Patton
Right.
said we're always on parade. Yes,
Right.
someone is always watching you, so you got to be careful
Right.
not to. You got to what's it, walk the talk, or else
Right.
you lose trust and people won't. Then they won't come to you and
Right.
ask you for information or advice or direction, whatever you need, because
Right.
they don't trust you. That's just the bottom
Right.
line. So the new chiefs, please be aware of that, and old chiefs too, be aware of that, and be authentic. Of course, we want you to be authentic, but at the same time, be aware that they're watching you and they're going to emulate you. That's how we learn. I don't know your son, but I bet you if I saw him somewhere and I wouldn't even have to ask him his name, I would see you in him because he's becoming you. And that's
Right.
a good thing. That's a good
A
thing.
better version. He's a better version of me.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's real air power. A
Mhm.
couple of minutes left on the show here, Nikki. You've written a book, so let me give you
Yes.
some props for doing that. You would be surprised how many people write me and ask me, Chief, I want to write a book. How do I do it? Well, my answer is write.
Right.
They don't get it, but nonetheless, that's
Right.
what you do. So congratulations on your first book. I can't remember the title because it's a little bit long. What's the title?
These tears don't go with my combat boots.
And it's on Amazon and other places.
It will be going on Amazon. I took it down to make some changes.
Okay.
But it will be back in, I would say, another 30 days.
Okay.
But it's served well. It's a story about a journey, having PTSD because of some things that happened, and I've gotten some good praise from it, and it was an absolute blessing to have the opportunity to do it. I'm actually, because of that book, I'm kind of changing gears, and I'm gonna start writing some children books.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, when you retire, you just start doing stuff that you've never done before.
Well, and people ask me because I'm twice retired, and I tell them I'm not retired. I'm refired. I just got,
I like that, Chief. I
the
like
fire is
that.
just going in a different direction. But
Yes,
yeah,
I like
or else
that.
you'll die quickly if you quit.
Yeah.
But well, keep doing that because and having read it, a wonderfully written book and some really
Thank you.
important stuff that we don't talk about a lot. It's like we don't talk about Bruno. You know that movie, right?
Right.
No, these are things that your story is stuff that I think a lot of people go through, And I think that, and particularly women, because I think it's geared more toward women, but we need to help each other. So watch out, and it's under Nicole Brown is the
Yes, it's under Brown.
under Brown. So if y'all are looking for that book, give her another 30 days or so, and then go on Amazon and look for her, because it really is a good book. I highly recommend that you read it, and I highly recommend that you do the next one. So I'll help you out with that. I've written one or two or 15, but anyway,
a good amount of books. A good amount of books.
Yeah. What's the best advice you can give to a new chief, Nikki?
The best advice that I would give to a new chief would be to listen to understand. You had there was a part in the book, and I don't remember, where you talked about when you become a chief or a senior NCO, you have so many experiences in life. And when someone comes to your door, you know, it's almost like you already have the answer to it because you've already been there and done that, right? But listen to their story, because even though it's familiar to you, their experience, what their experience is quite different. And listen to how it affected them, whatever that situation is. You will be surprised how many more times that person will come to you because you just listened. Don't give them the answer, right? Sometimes they just want someone to talk to. In this crazy world that's always moving, things are always happening. We got to take the time to listen. And you may very well save that person from making a detrimental mistake that they can't recover from. So take the time and listen. That would be one of the greatest things that was done for me in my career, and I hope that I've done for others during my time.
Very good. Thank you very much. And best of luck in everything that you do. God bless you. You're a wonderful person. Again, the book will be on Amazon soon. And this is Senior Master Sergeant, retired Nicole Brown, Bass Knight, Nikki. You got so many aliases.
I got so many aliases.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Same here, Chief. Thank you so much.